Hello. Welcome, everyone. This is the last hour of the Women in Tech book Kickstarter. I'm so excited to have my co-authors here with me today. This is extraordinary. We've got Miah Johnson, the sysadmin. We've got Kristin Toth-Smith, the educator. Katie Cunningham, our awesome and amazing parent. Kamilah Taylor, the developer. We've got Keren Elazari, the hacker. And we, of course, have Angie Chang, the crusader. And I'm Tarah Van Vlack. I'm here in Seattle, startup CEO, and just amazingly honored to be here with these wonderful women. 1 hour left to go on the Kickstarter. Please take a look at the short link here in my lower third and show up there. If we get to $33,000 by the end of this hour, we get a Spanish language translation. So great to be with you today. And if you could, every one of you ladies, give us a couple of words, a couple of sentences about what makes you feel like it's a great time to inspire women in technology and tell them more about yourself.
Who do you want to go first? Me? Okay.
Yep.
I think right now it's a great time because there's a lot of traction and a lot of attention. I started with PyLadies a few years ago, and it felt like an uphill battle. And it feels like there's just this really great momentum right now and a lot of attention and just a lot of people that are pitching in. So this is definitely a time when it feels like we have the ear of the world.
Yeah, I would second everything that Katie just said. I'm Kristin. I have been working in male-dominated fields for a long period of time, but the conversation is starting and it's really positive. And so I think it's just time to actually make real progress and make everybody feel really included. So I'm super happy to be a part of this.
Hi, I'm Kamilah. I think with the release of company diversity numbers last year, that's like a really great timing for us to really inspire the next generation of women into tech.
Jump on in.
Hi, I'm Miah. Is it going? So I started doing this, a long time ago, and it's been lonely in the sysadmin world. Typically, I'm the only woman in my group, and I think that it's starting to change now. Like I'm seeing a lot more women at DevOps and sysadmin-oriented events, and I think that it's all going to happen.
Hopefully nobody else is stuck. Keren, hopefully, are you unmuted? Are you ready to talk?
Yeah, happy to talk. Actually, I'm so excited to be a part of this book, and I'm so excited to be a part of the change which is happening in the world, ladies. In the hacker community, it has never been so diverse. It has never seen so many different types of people in it. And you know what? Cybersecurity is going to be an issue for the next 20 years, as far as it's been for the past 20 years. And we're going to need all of the women and all of the talent we can get. So I'm looking forward to meet the new hacker heroes of the next generation.
Amazing. Angie, give us a thought or two.
So when I started Women 2.0 in 2005, 2006, there were really no groups for women in Silicon Valley to mobilize who weren't already in the $1 Million Club. And that's why I started Women 2.0. That's why I started Girl Geek Dinners in 2008, and tonight we're hosting our 85th event at Autodesk, and we have a huge wait list and demand for women in tech events. It's also a great time for HackBright Academy to be training women software engineers and receiving great support from our community, from our mentors, from our partner companies, to support all the women coming into engineering that didn't get a CS degree a few years ago, to 10 years ago, to 20 years ago, to really change their lives now. And the community has been hugely supportive of people changing their lives and being able to make all the changes they want at any age.
That is awesome and amazing. And I know one of the things that we're able to do just as we get to write this book together, to create something like this, is I know that I'm going to kind of jump right into it. We've all had those moments where we've been frustrated and upset and angry, but I feel like we've really come together to create something that is just solely positive and instructional and common sense. And yet, even just being solely positive and common sense and instructional is rough sometimes. I mean, how do you feel like you do your best in keeping your positivity?
It is super hard sometimes, especially when you're feeling tired out and like you're doing a lot, which we're all doing, and not only at work but in our personal lives. So it can be hard to stay really positive. I think the thing that always works for me is just to kind of look back and look around at the impact that I've been able to have on my organization and in my immediate world, and to see how different that looks, and to appreciate the progress and the people I get to work with, and the fact that now this isn't just a conversation with women, it's with men who want to be a part of bringing more women into the fold and increasing the talent pipelines and the diversity of the workforce out there. And so I think it's so awesome to see the progress, and that's what really keeps me positive, because I think most people really are well-intentioned, and we're making progress, even if it seems slow on a day-to-day basis.
For me, it's the thing I keep, clinging on to is the fact that I do like to make things, and that's why I like to program. Is that I like to have a thing that I can say, "Aha, I made this," and that's the thing I keep coming back to. Every time I've been frustrated or angry or upset, it's like, but I like to make things, and so I'm going to make sure that I can continue making things, and make things with people that I like to work with. And so bringing people into the fold that I want to, have a community with, and, creating a community. So even if I don't like my communities, there are times I've been frustrated with it, focusing on that has helped me, keep my energy up.
I think there's new women's in tech communities that are popping up every day, every week, and I think that's really awesome that there's just so much demand and so much support for women, by women, and also from the greater community at large. Most of these women in tech events they say women in tech, but men are also invited if they come with a female friend, or they just come because they're interested, and there's no one going to say, no, you can't come. We actually welcome men as mentors and as supporters, and we would love to work with everyone. And I'm really glad that the organizations I started are not the only ones out there. I'm really happy to find new groups popping up and women running them, and so we have more leaders out there.
Let me add, as we're going through and just having this conversation, that any of you that are watching from anywhere, YouTube, Google+, any of the locations on websites, anywhere, if you'd like to participate in the conversation, use the Q&A application over here on the left-hand side of your Hangout button, and then you can ask us questions. Vote on other people's questions, and we will answer some of the best ones. So yeah, this is a challenge, I think, for everybody to stay positive. Honestly, I am not going to admit how emotional I've gotten throughout this campaign. It's been tough on a lot of levels, but the truth is I feel like this would not be worth doing if it wasn't a struggle. And I feel like to get these stories out there is something that's really, I think the world's really been waiting for. Not just continual critique, but just an understanding of what it takes to be someone. I feel like we pretty much all have done this, gets into tech through the side door. I mean, my degree's in political science, and I know that a lot of you guys came into this from totally weird directions. So tell us about the weird directions you took to get into where you are now.
I was a social welfare major, and I thought in college I'd be interested in helping people with disabilities. But my functional skills of being able to make websites got me my first jobs, and that's when I realized the ratio of women in engineering, and that's why I started the different groups that I did as a support group and a support network, and not in the normal sense of like emotional support, but just networks to find your next job and to find the people that are going to support you when you're thinking you're having a rough day, and then you realize that a lot of people are having rough days too, and you're going to help each other out and get through them and be stronger.
Go, Katie. You're thinking. Tell us the thing.
I am thinking.
Tell us the thing.
I'm hungry. Sorry, my husband was just chatting me. He's like, what do you want me to bring home? And there's this whole thing, just pick something. He's like, no, guide me. And I'm like, I don't care. Get drive-through. I don't care. So finally, I had to say Arby's. And now I'm sitting there thinking, God, I really want Arby's now, though. And he's an hour out. So, yeah, that was what was going through my head as I was looking really thoughtful. So what was the question?
Your diverse background.
How did you get into what you're doing? You know, computer science and stuff. We're all background, so yeah.
I actually kind of fell out of it and fell back into it because I was laid off in 2001, right after I had my son, and like 2 days after I came off maternity leave, and I thought, this is too much. I'm ill over this, and of course, being a young mother and being in my 20s, totally over dramatic. I'm like, I have been laid off, my career is over. So I quit, went to another field, and eventually kind of made my way back. And it was mostly, the fact that I realized I really enjoyed it. That was the thing that I loved going to do and going to work. My background is actually in psychology. I was going to go into special education and ended up not going into that field. So yeah, I had this real weird circuitous route that I took to get back to development. And then I wrote a book on accessibility, so I kind of came back, to the special needs field. So, and I meet through PyLadies a lot of women where their paths are not traditional. And it's kind of fascinating that we have very few, like, I went to school to be for computer science, did 4 years with computer science, graduated, got a degree in got a job in computer, like in the field. Most of them are like, yeah, I was a journalist, I'm a data scientist, or I did these completely other things, and then eventually ended up in this field.
Kamilah might be the only one of us who actually has a computer science degree. I mean, does anybody else have a computer science degree here? I don't think so. Kamilah, so you did the totally traditional thing. Tell us more.
Sure. So I probably got into computer science because my dad is a CS professor, and so my sister and I grew up in a household where we were like surrounded by all of the latest educational software. So yeah, I think it's I actually didn't think I would do CS for a long time. I took an AP CS class in high school. And while I thought that the computer science part of it was easy enough, I sort of remember not really liking all of the people in the class because there were a lot of guys in the class that were still going through their awkward phase, and they were kind of mean to the girls in the class. And they actually didn't really like that I was sort of good at computer science. They didn't seem to appreciate that too much. But we had our cohort of women in the class who all went on into various parts of engineering. And that really helped, so I ultimately decided to go on and do computer science and math in college. And then afterwards, I thought that I wanted to teach and do research, and so that's how I ended up going to grad school. And yeah, that's pretty much how I got into it, I think.
That's amazing. I know something I have been waiting to ask Keren for like a week or two, ever since I had that conversation with the awesome Mark Rogers who put us in touch with each other, and I was like, yay, Keren! Not about your lipstick, which is extraordinary, clearly. But I wanted to know, what is it, did you do your studying for becoming a security researcher in Israel, and if so, can you tell us more about how you kind of got into what you were doing?
Sure. So it's always funny to me when people ask me, what is your background? It's not my background, it's who I am. This is what I do. I do security. I've been a hacker for pretty much as long as I can remember myself. There are stories about me crawling under the table as a kid and picking at the cables and connecting things that should not be connected and making a mess. I grew up with a dad who's, he's kind of like Iron Man, like Tony Stark, only he's not a billionaire or a superhero, but he's my superhero. And he keeps, he's always inventing stuff. He's an electrical engineer. So he'd always have like gadgets and pieces of cable in the house or computer parts. And that would be like, my Lego or my Barbie dolls. I had Barbie dolls, but I also had robots. And I just always messed around with that stuff. So it's not my background, it's what I do. And this is what I've been doing for the past 20-something years. It's always asking questions, always taking stuff apart, and that's ultimately what hacking is all about, isn't it? So that's me.
That's freaking cool. And the other person that I wanted to ask about that was Kristin Smith, because she came through a field that is really, I think, uncommon for a lot of women. she's got patents in supply chain management and came up through supplies and logistics, which is completely awesome. And you were an executive at Amazon. Tell us a little bit more about how you ended up all the way over here.
Yeah, so it's funny because I started in engineering mostly because I thought it would be easier to transfer out than to transfer in, just in case I liked it, and didn't really think I would finish it. And then I fell into this program in college that was really cross-functional. It was engineering, it was business, and it was liberal arts all in one. It just seemed like a really good way to seem like I was being responsible without making any choices. So that kept me in it through school, and what I realized right as I was getting out of school, which will date me, was that the internet was going to really change some things. And the idea of technology, not just for searching the web and reading websites and sending emails and things that we were doing at the time, but the idea of sharing information and optimizing things better than people could do on a day-to-day basis, that just became this kind of curiosity thing that started invading everything that I did professionally. And pretty soon I was realizing that the biggest setback that we were always having was the number of software developers that we could bring in. And while I didn't pursue software development as my own major or my own career, I was constantly learning new things and teaching myself new things, and I always liked those classes, but it was really a tool for me to be able to do more of what I wanted to do faster and better, more than just sort of the idea of being a software developer. Like Katie, I think, said, or maybe it was, I think it was Katie, I love building things too. I came at it from a different angle and found my way here too.
I was kind of wondering if some of the folks that are here could talk a little bit more about what they felt challenged by when they were transitioning to tech. What were the things that you were scared of?
For me, the technical interview. Because it was one of those things that, I knew how to do it. Like, I could say, look, I built this huge site. Look at this thing I made. I can do all these things. And I would choke in the technical interview when there would always be some person who would ask, like, what's your favorite design pattern and why? And, okay, contrast it with my favorite design pattern because you're wrong and stuff like that. Usually it was that kind of, like, non-work. Like, I know that if I could get into the job, I could do it. I could rock it. But having to get past like gatekeepers, because I always felt like there was already a few points against me. Didn't have a proper CS degree, didn't have, there were just all these markers that it was like, and so that was actually my biggest anxiety, and my biggest accomplishment was when I actually landed a technical job on my own, merits, without anybody in the background going, pick her. So that was my biggest stress, actually.
I think the technical interview is challenging for everyone. I know the first time I started doing interviews after grad school, which was when I decided to leave academia and go into industry, and I did not do great on a lot of them, right? That was a really challenging thing. And my second time around, which is when I landed my LinkedIn spot, I was a lot more prepared. I was able to sort of figure out how to prepare for the questions, how to answer the questions, and it's a skill that you have to learn. It's not exact. It doesn't exactly reflect your talent, just how well you interview.
And I feel like it's not magic either. I've spent quite a bit of time at this point really teaching women how to do technical interviews. I've got a friend of mine who's writing a book solely on technical interviews, and I'm writing a chapter for him on how to, how as a woman, especially to kind of alter a little bit about what your perspective might normally be to really be successful in those. And I feel like, women who are more, this is challenging. It's really tough because we know that we get penalized sometimes for really brash, and yet saying I'm a badass web developer is often really the way that you get jobs. And 90% of the time they were like, you're cool, and 10% of the time like, wow, she's no. So just kind of working on how to present that is really tough, I think, and I'm glad we're going to be able to present this really kind of valuable information. I'm a little concerned, and maybe I'll ask your perspectives on it now. We'll have this kind of conversation now. I tend to think that just giving people what I think works is the best option. Like, here are the tools that I know work, and I'm going to present them in as value-free a context as I possibly can. And it's your decision what you want to do. Here's what I've noticed. I'm a scientist, so I don't really care how you feel about them. I just want you to know what I think about these things and what I've discovered does and doesn't work. I mean, how do you feel about presenting this kind of information in a value-free context?
So I want to jump in there, if I can. And first of all, for all the ladies who are afraid of, or maybe a little concerned about getting technical or going to a technical interview, I have a secret weapon, and I'm going to tell you about it. And it's so easy to bring this secret weapon to the interview with you. This is just one of those erasable markers, you know, the ones for whiteboards. And you can write on a window frame or like basically any plastic surface. And I always have one of these with me, always, always. And then whenever I'm in a room and there's some sort of a technical discussion and I just want to, you know, give people my idea of the situation, I'll just walk up to the next surface and I'll just, you know, lay out the architecture, like visually or technically or logically or whatever it is, if it's a network or if it's a software environment, and I'll try and take them through it visually. And that kind of always helps me feel more comfortable. And it usually turns it around to whether the question is not about whether I know my stuff, it's whether we can have a, you know, a conversation about this stuff and let's see what are the different options and talk about, am I capable of talking about them? Because I am, and I've got the marker.
Yeah, and see, I love that. Because I'm really good. If you give me a whiteboard, oh, I can go to town. I can write everything up. It's great. I'm a remote worker. And I've had people say, well, we'll just watch you code. And I'm like, because that's natural. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it can be like, and that's hard because it's like, I control it. And actually, today I was having a meeting with my boss, and I had to keep holding up because unfortunately, I have a hard time like doing it on virtual whiteboards, like drawing. I should just hook up my Cintiq. I had to keep holding up. I'm like, look, there's the diagram. And then putting it down again and saying, see, I know, and that's how we finally understood that we were connecting. So yeah, a lot of them are just, you know, I love it when they're like, you know, give me the abstract concepts instead of, you know, the hardcore, like, okay, come on, CS, you know, classes were a while ago.
Miah, I wanted to actually ask you, can you jump in a little bit and talk more? One of the great options, especially for women in tech, is being able to work remotely and schedule your life the way that you see fit. And you're a remote fit for a lot of stuff. Can you talk a little bit more about, you know, Miah, about what it's like to be remote and how you manage your day and what the good and bad parts of that are?
Okay. I would say the bad parts are that you're not in the office. And, you know, a lot of conversations happen in the office. And not only that, but a lot of just interactions happen in the office. I'm lucky enough that my company is entirely on IRC, so I'm able to communicate with anybody and everybody always. And so I think it's a really good part. But yeah, I kind of miss the aspect of being in the office and being able to grab some people and go off into a conference room and just, you know, quickly hash out some details. It's much more difficult on IRC. It's much more difficult to type than it is to speak, right? Like to translate your thoughts from speech into like actual text and have it be coherent is kind of difficult. But I've been on IRC for a really long time, so it's almost my primary form of communication at this point. I'm still really inefficient at it though. But yeah. We don't do very many video conferences, so I think that helps for some people. There's lots of different ways to do that, and I haven't found a way to do pairing in a way that is really optimal. So I usually work via like pull requests. You know, here's my code. Please review it. Give me some feedback. We'll have a discussion on IRC, and move forward from there. Like that's my work. My work day is very much code as much as I can, step away whenever I need to, and just kind of it's super flexible around that. If I need to step away for 2 hours and go for a walk or play a video game or whatever, like I do that.
Oh, we got a new backer! Yay! I'm so pleased. Okay. So close. All right. Go on.
I'm another remote worker, and I found that like it's very easy to become invisible if suddenly the company does not invest in the right tools. Like when I started at a job that was 100% remote, there was not a policy of say it in IRC if you got to say it. So there were lots of hallway conversations. Then they had a policy of if it's important, say it in IRC. And then I felt very included. At one point, I was in a team that was 100% remote, and that was great. My current company, I am 80% remote, and we are all in and out of the office. So it's actually been really nice to be very interconnected because there's lots of Google Hangouts. For me, the advantages are that I can see the kids off to the bus. I can be there when they get home. If one is sick, I actually had a company where my eldest got sick, and if like a 10-year-old getting sick, you hand them apple juice, put them on the couch, turn on SpongeBob, and walk away. If they're not throwing up, there's really, if they have a cold, it's not a big deal. And I was told I could not work from home because I needed to, attend to my child like a proper parent. And I was like, wow, he has a cold. I don't have to do anything. He's just sitting there, I'm not seeing him through his final hours here. So here, nobody knows. I have a sick kid, they don't know that I have a sick kid in the chair next to me.
You seriously judged how you were caring for your kid while he was sick? Really?
Yeah. Well, it depends on how they're sick. If he was desperately ill, if my daughter was really ill, then I will take off leave. But kids get these kind of like they just don't feel well, and they just need to sit on the couch and sleep all day. That does not require my interaction, for the most part. And a lot of times it's just a little cold, or something like that. So they just need to stay at home for a few hours. So it's but yeah, they wouldn't let me take they made me take leave because I needed to be a proper parent. So that part is good, but you have to be really at a company that has a good, remote, because otherwise it can be impossible to climb, to get promotions, because nobody knows who you are besides commits. But Miah, I have a thing for you. Cloud9. I just discovered it, and I've been using it, and I'm going to use it for an online class, on March 8th, and you can share, consoles and do collaboration. It looks like Sublime.
That's
it's
cool.
So cool.
I've used it in the past.
Okay.
Or one of them. But no. I'm a very big fan of these kind of web editors. It's just been very hard to break me out of my VI habits.
Yeah. I think they're added VI bindings, finally.
Yeah, I think so. But I think I agree with remote. Company culture is the biggest barrier to remoting successfully. And I've worked at previous remote jobs I've had. The company culture was such that the only people on IRC or HipChat or Campfire or whatever was engineering, and anybody else in the company was just, they were like, no, we're not going to do that. And so you were invisible. You were invisible to everybody outside of engineering, and it was impossible to keep track of what was happening outside of the office. So I think, company culture is huge. You basically, if you want to work remote, you have to interview the right company, right, and find the right company that does it correctly. And I think there are very few of them at this point.
Speaking of company culture, I think Kamilah and Angie are the two who are in Silicon Valley right now, right? Or Miah, are you in Silicon Valley? I think you are too.
I'm technically northeast of it.
Okay, but we're sort of close, and you're in California, that counts as Silicon Valley. So the nature of how women are treated in technology, and it seems like it's kind of a hothouse situation in Silicon Valley. Can you, especially Angie, talk a little bit more about how you see women's roles changing and how you see them succeeding more and more, especially with more mentorship over time?
I think, as we've heard before, there have been a lot of diversity numbers that have been encouraged to be released, which are great, and it started conversations that didn't exist before this year about the need for women to be rising in these companies. And I hope there will be more accountability for these companies to track the progress of the women, to see where the women are not advancing and which managers are not advancing them and why. And being held accountable for retaining women and also attracting and promoting women internally. So there is a lot of support right now. I think it's a great time for women to go into a company and say that she has ambition and that she will work hard for the company, but she also expects to be rewarded handsomely for her hard work in that company. And I think all the women's networks that are popping up in these companies and externally as well. I run several of these external organizations like Girl Geek Dinners and Women 2.0 and HackRight, but internally, companies often have a women in tech group, at least one or two, with women in tech, meaning and near interest women in the company of a tech company. And these groups often have budget to provide their women with training and support and services to get ahead, which is really encouraging that companies are putting an emphasis on supporting the women internally in their companies.
And Kamilah, what's it like getting hired on for the first time in a Silicon Valley company? I mean, you work for LinkedIn. That's one of the big ones. So what is it like kind of starting out in one of the big companies?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, when I started, we were around 2,000 globally, which is still large, but not as large as now, where it's like 6,000 or 7,000. I don't know, something large. It's tripled in size. But when I joined, because it was so much smaller, it didn't feel that large. And LinkedIn has done a lot of work over the years to try and maintain that sort of startup culture and that small company culture and vibe, and a lot of like the values that they have there. But it's been pretty great. The people at LinkedIn are really, like we hire not just smart people, but people that you want to hang out with. People that, I go on vacation with them and you hang out with outside of work. And that's a really important thing, I think, to have. Like, you don't find that at every company, and it's something that, like, you can't, like, underestimate the value of. But yeah, it's been a great experience so far.
So I want to just say a couple of things, if I could, now about what it's like kind of putting a project like this one together. It's insane on every single level, but I think that the thing that is just extraordinary about this is we're across national boundaries, we're across ethnic and gender divides, we're across all kinds of identities, and just creating this book that is it's extraordinary to see it happen. And what it took, I think, was a lot of trust to do this. Just that we were all going to throw our hats into the ring and give it a shot, to tell a lot of women about it. And I want to really thank each and every one of you, because it's almost more than anything else an honor that you're trusting me to do this. It's really hard to put this together, and I know you know that. I mean, every one of us knows what it's like to project manage something like that. Now just imagine what it's like to put together a project management with 8 or 9 world-famous, awesome technical women who are CEOs and founders. And, it's like this weird, like, honorable headache all the time. And I'm having just this extraordinary time, and I think the biggest thing that I want to communicate is how much I'm grateful to each one of you for trusting me to do this. I mean, there's no way to know what's going to happen, and I just have to treat you to the best of my ability, the way that I want to be treated. And I mean, what did you guys think when I like called you up and I'm like, oh my God, I'm doing a thing, you should do it with me?
Well, you're pretty extraordinary yourself, and the fact that you were taking this on, I think, just spoke volumes about how awesome it can be. And I think the positivity and the sort of proactive approach that I hear everybody taking during this endeavor, and you're leading the way, Tarah, that's really been the thing that stood out for me. And it's a little bit of a leap of faith, but I'm not too worried about anything. The negativity will be out there if I'm not doing something about it, and trying to counteract it. Then I'm part of the problem. So I'm more than happy, and I'm glad to be on board with you. So thank you for your sweet words.
Yeah, I was so excited to be a part of this as well. Thanks, Tarah, for thinking about me for this. Really, if there's something I realized in the past year with my TED Talk and really, meeting and speaking to people from all over the world, I realized that it's just not enough to be a successful or a promising or what have you, a good person in what I do. I also have to be that role model for other people and try and and see how I can be a part of a conversation, a bigger conversation, a cross-cultural conversation across, in all of the world, to create those stories, accessible success stories, like the ladies here. I'm just really happy to be on this hangout with you, girls, ladies, not girls. It's just exciting to be a part of this, and I'm really looking forward to the experience.
I was excited. I love writing. And I tend to look at writing, something like this. This is one of those things I get approached on quite a bit, being the parent, because I'm often to my peers. I had my children. I front-loaded my career with children. I had children, then I started my career. So I have the older kids, and I've talked with women about having kids and being in the field and what it's like and what are the advantages, what are the disadvantages, what are the weird parts. So being able to I can write about this, and then I can say, well, here, before I talk to you, here, just read this thing, and then you will have a lot of information that I have, because I often blog because I'm inherently lazy, and I just want to be able to send people a link and say, look, there you go, you can read it about it. But it's also part of the conversation. Tarah was hesitant when she first asked me. She's like, do you mind talking about being the parent? And it's like, oh no, because it's part of the conversation that oddly it happens, and it's usually focused around things like maternity leave and parental leave and mommy tracks, but there's a whole other side to it that never gets discussed, and I'm eager to talk about my experiences with that and the other women that I've talked with, their experiences with it.
I have to say, I'm going to just stop for a second and note, I think that Katie, I mean, we're all awesome and everything, that's cool, but I think that it's actually extraordinarily brave given what it's like to get promoted in technology, to become part of new companies. Oddly enough, Katie's the one with the big scarlet M right now, and it's so hard seeing the way that women are so often mommy tracked away from major promotions and stuff. I feel like it's really brave to talk about the fact that you have a life outside of technology. I mean, I barely feel like I can do that, So I admire you for that. And let me ask you all, what is some of the stuff that you do outside of tech? What are the things that you do for fun, if you can admit to it?
I knit. I know I'm really breaking type here.
I play an awful lot of video games. I also have 2 daughters.
I watch too many movies. There's this great movie theater in San Francisco called Sundance Kabuki Theater, where you buy your tickets ahead of time, and they have actual good food and beer. And my roommate and I have a thing where we get chicken tenders and craft beer and watch a movie. That's what I do. Too many movies, but
you can reserve your seats there too.
Yeah, you get to reserve your seats. Yeah, I love it.
And they've got nice reclining chairs.
Yeah.
The Kabuki's great.
Yeah,
I'm on the wrong coast.
Yeah, for me it's music. So probably the weirdest thing is that I always thought I would be a musician. And so even though I don't get to play very much anymore, I love listening to music and going to see live music and just being around music.
What instrument do you play?
Violin mainly.
I play piano. That's another one of my things. So yeah, I try to sneak in as much practice as I can. Not enough time in the day, but
exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, my editor will kill me if I don't say it. I write. I write books, but they're technical books. But I enjoy writing. But I write lots of technical books, and I write mostly beginner books. Because I love writing books from that perspective, because it's so much fun to break apart knowledge and to build it back up again. So I just finished a book for children, and for mentors and children to work together to learn how to code in Python.
That's awesome.
We clearly have no fun ever.
I watch a lot of YouTube, Let's Plays.
I have cats. Yeah, I have cats that I pet. Oh, there she is.
Did I make it over? Did I make it over?
You did. Can we, and your video's not working yet, but at least your sound is working. You have
Well, I'm on cell. That would kill my entire
That's
data plan. Right.
totally cool. So again, welcome to Brianna Wu, our 8th author here, which is extraordinary and awesome. Brianna is the CEO of Giant Space Cat, and she's a badass who many of you may not realize is one of the most laid-back and diplomatic people I've ever met, in a total hero of mine, for being calm and awesome and empathetic in a world where I would not be able to be that way. So I am just a big admirer of her. So Brianna, what we're doing is we're just kind of hanging out right now and talking about some of the things we like to do outside of technology for fun. I know there is such a thing as fun, and we are 19 minutes away from the end of the Kickstarter. We're getting a new backer every once in a while, so throw that out there on your Twitters and just say we are so close. I think we're less than $1,000 away from getting the Spanish language translation. So there you go.
That's exciting.
Let us know what you. Yeah. What do you do for fun, Brianna? I heard something about a motorcycle.
I do. So when we first moved to Boston, we had to spend $500. Well, how much was it, Frank? It was $400 for a parking space. Both at work and at our apartment. So what we did was we were able to park like a motorcycle behind it for free. So we went and sold one of our cars, and I said to myself, well, I can, take this money and go make a motorcycle payment. So I get the most badass, awesome Honda CBR sports bike, and it is like something straight out of anime, and it is fantastic. And I have to tell you guys what it's like to when you're, you spend so much time in front of a computer, so to get out there and be on a bike, it's just so freeing. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
I ride bitch for my husband who's a biker though.
Well, there you go. There you go.
I mean, honestly, that's kind of the case there. He's awesome. Leather, chains,
Wow.
Banged Care Bear. I love him. He's wonderful. That actually brings me to a great topic. One of the things I really wanted to do was I wanted to throw out some names of people who've been extraordinarily successful. So if you can come up with a couple of names of especially the men who have been really awesome, like standing behind in the background, not taking credit for the help that they've given to us, I would love it if you guys could mention a couple of names. And I'm going to jump this in with saying that there are probably 3 men that jump right away into my mind that have been huge supports that you don't know about, that nobody knows about because they shut up and they don't take credit for it. John Callis, Dan Shapiro, and Paul Watts are my 3 favorite awesome guys, and there's so many more. I just want to especially call out those guys for not taking credit, for helping behind the scenes, being awesome. And they throw out some names of some great men that have really helped and behind the scenes and supporting you. Oh, and my husband. Yeah, my husband. Go ahead.
Well, I would say my husband too. I also think the person that gave me my first start in my career, his name is Glenn Fleischman, and he let me do a very high-profile piece for the magazine, and that was my first step into kind of getting into the world of being a Mac celebrity and kind of getting a lot of conference invites. So Glenn Fleischman has been a tremendous ally to me. I think I would also say over in the game dev side, God, there are just so many guys there that have been really good allies to me behind the scenes. So I don't know. I would say Renee Ritchie over at iMore. He's been a really fantastic ally. Guy English has been a really good ally to me. I could go on for hours.
One of the things that, we joke with say, yeah, our husband, I could not have gotten anywhere close to where I am. I actually just got a promotion yesterday. I'm director of technology at my company. And most of it was because, he was, okay, what can I take over? I travel to conferences all the time, and I'm like, well, sucks to be you. Enjoy having the kids, and dealing with dealing with the dog and that kind of stuff while I disappear for 2 weeks. And it's more like, and it's less of, attaboys and saying, oh, you did such a great job, and more the practical side of course I can pick up dinner on the way home because you have a deployment to do. If I had to run the household like 100% and do my job, I would eventually either, completely fall down on the house, and it's not great. I mean, it's a very specific part of the house you're seeing right now that is very carefully cleaned and curated. but that's very important, having the support of your family, and really the rest of my family. When I got keynoted in Australia, and I was like, yeah, I'm going to be gone for like 2 weeks. Y'all got this, right? And they're like, yeah, of course. And so they, got the kids and, had, dealt with the day-to-day stuff that I no longer had to deal with because I was literally on the other side of the country.
No, that's awesome. I think it's hard to underestimate just how critical, your spouse is. I mean, my husband, when I was knee deep in getting Revolution 60 shipped, I hope he doesn't mind me saying this, but he really took over doing a lot of the kind of chores around the house because it was just 80 hours a week and I'm frazzled all the time. And, I would not have a career if it weren't for his tireless support. And I can't thank him enough.
I absolutely agree. And we are 15 minutes away from the end of the Kickstarter, and I'm totally excited right now. We're getting a new backer every couple of seconds, folks. If you can reach out to the people that are awesome and amazing, I know many of you who are watching have already backed us. Please reach out to somebody in the last couple of minutes here. We just got 13 minutes left to go, and we are trying really hard to get to that Spanish language translation. So happy to have everybody here with us. If you've just been joining us very recently, we've again got Angie Chang, Brianna Wu, Keren Elazari, Kamilah Taylor, Katie Cunningham, Kristin Toth-Smith, got Miah Johnson, and again, I'm Tarah Van Vlack. This is amazing, and I'm thrilled to be part of this. And I feel like one thing that we really need to do besides talking about fun and allies and challenges and stuff like that is talk about a very, very important thing about how women are involved in media and how we represent ourselves, and I'm glad that we're able to speak for ourselves. And I feel like the thing that I'm going to do tonight to celebrate, I'm going to tell you all this, and then you're going to tell me what you're all going to do. I am totally taking like 2 shots of rum and going to Jupiter Ascending because that is the greatest movie that has ever existed ever. And
it's so good.
Honest, down with me on this one.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's amazing!
It's great.
I'm going like 3 times. So how are you guys going to celebrate tonight? What are you going to do?
Well, I'm flying out to speaking at college, so I'm going to celebrate by spending some time with this dude I live with, amazingly, before I don't see him for a week and a half. So that's my mission. Yeah.
I'll be packing as well. I have a Tahoe. We have a company Tahoe trip tomorrow, so I luckily did not sign up for the 5 a.m. bus. That would have been a little bit disastrous, but that's what I'll be doing tonight. But this weekend, I'll be celebrating in Tahoe, so that's good.
Bourbon and Arby's, because I know how to party.
That's really hard to top. I
know, I can't even say anything now.
If you could get Jupiter Ascending in there, that would just be the ultimate evening.
I am actually somewhat sad. I now have a really busy job. Because it used to be that you could sneak out for a few hours and go see a movie, and now I'm like, crap, I could, but, I'd have to take my laptop with me and work during the movie. So, and we don't have awesome movie theaters with reserved seating and chicken tenders, so.
That's the only good thing about living in a snooty joint like Redmond. There is a theater here with recliners and beer at your chair. It's like magic. Wow.
If you can go see James Bond and they bring you a martini, it's like the best.
Oh, I love that. They brought the Vesper Lynn to you in your chair, where your butt is all comfortable and like cushioned by the recliner. It was the greatest way to see a movie ever.
And there's truffle popcorn. It's amazing.
Oh, it's so good.
These folks to Seattle will happen now.
So there's 11 minutes left in the Kickstarter. Let me ask you folks, what are your hopes for the accomplishments of this book? What do you hope that it does?
Well, I hope that, the reason I got involved in this book is I got, I'm not trying to be down on anyone's work, but I'm kind of tired of journalists and academics, instructing people on how to deal with the pressures in this field. And, something that really bothers me is invariably when an academic writes on this subject, they end with this, utopian call at the end of it. So what I'm hoping is I think that, I think for women in this field, I think neurocognitively we have different priorities, just in the way we process information and kind of, execute a plan. So I'm hoping that, the book is going to, I hope that it's going to fall into the hands of people that really just need practical, no-nonsense advice that kind of, helps them navigate this practical reality of, this field, which sadly is very politicized.
Mm-hmm.
My hope is that a lot of the organizations that I've started, like Women 2.0, Girl Geek Dinners, Hackbright, the All Women's Engineering School, my hope is that we don't need to be around anymore to change the ratio. And I've heard the same thing said by ASTI and other women's organizations trying to help women in technology entrepreneurship, is that we just don't want to have to do this anymore. I maybe want to try something else in 10 years, and I hope that we solve this problem of lack of women in the upper echelons of technology in the next 10 years.
That would be amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, my hope is there's a lot of new women that come into the field that talk to me because I'm work through Pilates, so I get a lot of women coming in. And many of them are very nervous, and I'm hoping to give them something that says, okay, here's just real talk about it. I'm not going to sell you, a BS line that you sometimes get where it's like, oh, no, everything's fine. Just, like football, play fantasy football, and that solves everything. Here's some real talk about it. Here's the positive sides of it. Here's the negative sides of it. But we are here to support each other, so, here's a place to start. Because sometimes they can feel like they're getting sold a line, or that, they're just scared to death, that, they're going to end up in a situation where they're just not going to be happy. And it's like, no, this is a great place. I wouldn't be here otherwise. Here's all the pros and cons.
Anybody else have any last thoughts or hopes for this book?
I'd love for this to be a relatable and actionable resource for women who are maybe in tech or thinking about entering tech or just curious about what it is. A lot of times you'll see things where maybe it seems sort of like out of reach, or you're like, oh, well, this was sort of easy for you, or these were different problems for you, and it doesn't really relate to me. And so I'd really love to see this as a resource where it's not only relatable, but there are like action items, and this is something where it's like, oh, okay, like these are things that I could do. I can totally do this. I'm capable. This isn't like out of reach for me.
I think that's well said.
Yeah, I feel like when we all agree to do this, that the thing that we all understand is that we all have extraordinarily, sometimes very different views on how to solve the problem. I think that the thing that really kind of bonds us together is the notion that we know that there is a problem, that it's, we've got different opinions on how big it is and what we can do about it, but the notion that we've got here is that the way to help, the way that we can help, even if there's other ways other people can help, is to provide some kind of positive advice, some kind of instruction, some kind of inspiration to people to say, look, this is something that you can do too, that we didn't do this, we almost ended up here by accident, a lot of us, weirdly enough, weird career paths and strange life choices, and you can do this too. It's not as intimidating as sometimes it looks like from the outside. And that we're all here to help with it as we go through. So, I feel like that's the real key here, and it's a thing, kind of keeping this just in the realm, just like Brianna said, of common sense that makes this a realistic project. Not a critique, but an instruction manual.
Mm-hmm.
I know, and I don't want to speak for anyone else, but I know in my field, it often feels like there are no role models, and there's no one to kind of look to that have struggled and solved the problems that I'm looking to. There are a lot of women in this field. They're kind of veteran developers, but or not developers so much, but on the press side. And I find that sometimes, if you're looking to solve the problem, like get on the VC scene or kind of navigate the very male-dominated journalism structure, I find there's not a lot of people to they've solved these problems before. And, I look at my friends in this field that are men, they talk to each other and they kind of share this knowledge. And, I think the things that we've learned in our careers so far, I think they're historically valuable, and I think they should be chronicled. And I think I don't want women that come after me to have to keep inventing the wheel in this field. Does that make sense? Do you guys know where I'm coming from?
Yeah.
I think it's encouraging for young women to hear from other people that have done it. So, for example, everyone here in this conversation kept talking about supportive partners, and I don't have a partner yet, so I can't agree to that, but I would love to find one, and it's very encouraging to hear that women have been incredibly successful with children and partners. That sounds amazing, and I think a lot of people don't know that that actually exists. So I'm really glad to hear that.
All right, let me ask you folks, we've got about 5 minutes left to go. This is really, really exciting. I'm looking at the Kickstarter right now. We have 768 backers. We're at $32,130. We've got $870 left to go. If we can possibly do it in the last couple of minutes here, and we are trying hard. If we can get there, we can get the Spanish language translation, and I'm really excited about seeing that happen. I know that one of the main goals that I have is not to be that person that speaks for other people, but just tries to make information available. And I think the thing that we're all trying to do is not try to represent some larger community so much as we're just saying, look, this is what we have experienced. And I feel like every one of us has great positive stories. So maybe if some of you can give just one or two great little stories about you know, like give me a 3-sentence story about something that makes you feel happy about being in tech.
So on the topic of allies, one of my favorite allies has been one of the people that put together the lineup for MIT Startup School. And it's kind of similar to Y Combinator Startup School, where you have a day of speakers. And the organizer, who was a guy at MIT, reached out to me and said, I realized our ratio of women was literally 20% in our last year's conference. Can you connect me to some women who've done amazing things? And sure enough, the next year, the speakers went up to 50% male, 50% female. There's no need for a separate track for a female founders conference, and I thought that was actually the best thing. And I was happy to help, and he made it happen. So things like that have been very encouraging.
The people I've met through the Python community, because that's my home base, is the Python community. Some of the deep, relationships I've forged there have been very meaningful and have shaped my life. It's not just a job that I go to and then I come home and I forget about. It's been something that has shaped, who I am and, who I hang out with and what I get exposed to. And that's huge. That's one of the reasons why I will stay and fight, to make this community a place that's even better, for everyone.
I think for me, I get letters all the time from people thanking me for kind of standing up and doing what I do, kind of opening up the doors here in game dev. So I really appreciate that. But even the basic work of being a game developer and bringing your own vision to fruition, there's just there's nothing like it when I get to make my own game. And it's the game that I've dreamed of making my whole life, and then you talk to players and they're really excited and passionate about your game. I have someone that played through my game Revolution 60 32 times to figure out all the endings, and like that's just, it's awesome to be able to do work that touches people's lives like that. And I think that so few people really get to have a career that ends up making a difference. And I feel very thankful that I'm in a position to make a difference every single day.
So similarly, I think we talk about technology all the time, or we're teaching technology, but really when it comes down to it, this is a service business of people, people, people. And it's so inspiring to go to our open houses where we have tons of people, and many of them are women, and they're just getting exposed to the possibilities with technology, and they're asking questions, and they're getting a really positive response. And the instructor team that we have and the staff team that we have is so nurturing and so supportive, and we help people take a giant leap of faith and come out the other side of this crazy process and change their lives and have amazing careers that they just absolutely love. And to see the number of women coming through our programs, even in a couple of short years, going through the roof and just increasing all the time, just to be able to see that and to see the individual impacts that we're able to make, and that technology really is able to make in people's lives, and how they can care for their families and how they think about themselves is just so awesome.
Hang on. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and we did it. Hot damn. Wow, that is awesome. Oh, I'm so happy. Okay, let me tell you the final results here. Wow, okay, my heart is pounding. We had, holy, many profanities. 772 people who backed this campaign. We've raised $32,226 for a book for women in technology. That is
right.
Congratulations, you guys! Oh my God, I'm so excited right now. Oh, okay. I guess just thank you so very much to everybody who's watching right now. I mean, we saw so many great questions and answers throughout this entire campaign. I'm so proud that we have kept this positive and awesome and inspirational. And I'm just going to ask everybody here if you can give me one last sentence that just says how you're feeling right now.
I mean, how many adjectives are there for excited? You know.
Can we make a one for excited? Excited / scared?
Scared.
Nervous?
Yeah.
Very hopeful.
I am so honored to be part of this project with all of you, and thank you so very much to everybody who's watching. I'm hard. I'm
It's
tough.
going to be awesome. I am psyched.
All right. Thank you so very much, everyone. It's been an extraordinary pleasure. We're going to follow up with everybody with an update very quickly here. Kickstarter has just sent me an email saying that we are successfully funded, so look for your book sometime eventually soon, and we're hoping this is going to come out. Okay, I'm done doing my gabbing thing. Thank you so much, everybody, and I look forward to talking with you all again very soon. Tune in again next week for my usual Tarah Talks at the 3:30 time, and I will see you all then for my next conversation about something cool in tech. Have a lovely, lovely day, y'all. So very, very much, and we'll talk to you again very, very soon.